Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to order at 10:01 a.m. And we would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Shelburne resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, Chippewa, and the people of the Three Fires Confederacy. These traditional territories upon which we live, work, play, and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. It is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and resources. We encourage residents to review the call to action information by visiting the website dccrc.ca/educational links to further research and educate oneself. Thank you for joining us for the first Economic Development Committee meeting this morning. As you can see, it's a small committee today. The mayor is unwell and unable to join us, and we do have one other member that is currently not present. We did attach the committee terms of reference, the focus of the committees, the roles and expectations to the agenda. Once the chair is established, if you're unable to attend a meeting, if you could please let me and the chair both know, then we can keep track of things that way. I'm not going to review the terms as you do have them, but just be aware of them. If you have any questions about them, please don't hesitate to ask. We are required to ask at each meeting if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest. If you have any, you can state them at the beginning of each meeting or state them when we get to that portion of the agenda. There are no financial topics on this agenda, so unless anyone corrects me, I'm going to say that there are no disclosures of pecuniary interest. Okay, so the next item on the agenda would be the selection of the committee chair and the vice chair. We're actually not going to do that on this agenda because of the fact that we have such a small committee at this point and we are trying to expand the committee. We're going to hold off on doing the committee chair and vice chair until the committee has some more members and is complete in membership. So we're going to just jump right into the general information discussion items, and I'm going to pass it over to Carol Maitland, the Economic Development Officer, and let her discuss each of those items.
Good morning, everyone. So this is, I guess, our first time meeting. Okay, so the budget items that we're going to be discussing are only going to be as they relate to the Economic Development Committee. So can I share my screen, Alice? So I'm just going to quickly share my screen. So this is, there you go. Everyone can see that?
Can you make it a little bigger, Carol? Stretch it up a bit. Thank you.
Good.
Yep.
Okay, so as it relates to the Economic Development Committee, there are basically two main events that the Economic Development Committee helps to organize. And one of them is the Economic Development Breakfast. The other is the Economic Development Golf Tournament, which is currently ongoing. And actually there's the new one, which is sort of developed as a result of COVID. And that was basically a speaker series that we started doing remotely to support some of our local businesses with information sessions. So the Economic Development Breakfast is something that has been historically, I believe it's been going on for basically the life of the Economic Development Committee, which I'm going to say is more than 15 years. It has not, since COVID, we haven't had it. So the last Economic Development Breakfast that was hosted would have been in 2019. So this is something that we definitely want to reactivate. It was always well received. We typically have or host about 230 people attend the event. It's a time for the Economic Development Committee to meet with our local businesses, talk about some of the concerns in the community, but also talk about some of the things that the Economic Development Committee will be working on. The other event is Economic Development Golf Tournament, and that 3 years ago, we decided to partner with the Rotary. So that particular event has been hosted primarily by the Rotary and Economic Development, Shelburne Economic Development. Its purpose now is as a fundraiser and also as a tool to have businesses sort of meet each other. And so it's a great event. Again, we typically sell out every year that we've done it. And I believe we've raised over the last 3 years over $35,000. That money has gone towards the development of the splash pad. Now the Economic Development Rotary Golf Tournament is basically supporting recreation projects within the town, and Rotary particularly didn't want to specify any particular project. They just wanted to be able to support various projects throughout town that were related to recreation. So now is my ask, because the event is actually going to be happening on June the 8th, I believe. I'll send you some more details after the meeting, but we will require some volunteers from the Economic Development Committee to attend. In the past, we've always had some members at the registration table to meet the business owners. And also, we've also had representation at some of the halls. And it also, again, at the dinner, because that, again, is another networking opportunity. So we encourage as many Economic Development Committee members to attend as possible. So if you can see in the budget, we budgeted $800, and that $800 actually will pay for the registration. It's a registration, I guess, lunch. That it's a networking opportunity. Again, we have the businesses pre-register, they come, they have a snack before they get onto the golf course. The Economic Development breakfast typically breaks even, but we do budget $4,000 for the breakfast. None of these events are meant to be profit generating. The EDC breakfast, the $4,000 typically will go towards the cost for the meals. The breakfast isn't free. We do charge, but that is a decision that will need to be made. The amount that we charge will be based on the cost of the buffet breakfast per person, right? So I know 3 years ago, we were averaging approximately, I believe it was $12 to $15 per person. I suspect now that that's probably gone up considerably. Tickets prices were in the range of $20 per ticket, which covered the meal and also any speakers that we had that attended the breakfast. So normally what we do is we have breakfast, we have a speaker, and we also have a post-event educational a seminar. So that usually does cost some money to have someone come in and talk about whatever. So the last one that we did, we had someone come in and talk about basically how to communicate your business to, so it was all marketing based. It was about setting up your website. It was about communicating on Facebook and tools that you could use to improve your communication. So that particular person, what cost, I believe it was $3,500 for her to come in for that 3-hour session. And during that session, she provided information, and we find that the businesses do appreciate it. We typically had about 18 businesses that participate after the event. The event always starts very early in the morning, so be prepared. It starts at 7 a.m. and it goes to 9 a.m. We usually start registration at 6:30 in the morning, and that has been the way the breakfast has always been done, and it is well received by the businesses. So that's something that, again, the EDC committee can discuss and determine whether they want to make changes to that. But I would say that it hasn't been done in quite some time, but making changes would be something that you'd have to determine on your own. And based on, I know Walter has some experience with it, and I know that he can certainly provide some more background information on that. So that is essentially the budget that is pertinent to the Economic Development Committee. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them of me, and I will hopefully be able to answer them. So did you want to go over the reconstructing the committee?
Why don't you go into the golf tournament and breakfast, since you've already touched on those, and we'll do the committee at the.
So there really isn't much more to talk about with regards to the golf tournament. I will send you some more information, and then if you are able to volunteer, please do let me know. And then the breakfast, that's going to be up for discussion further as we sort of increase our committee members. And we haven't started planning, and typically we have the breakfast before the golf tournament, so it's usually in March, and we do that purposely because the other economic development committees within Dufferin County have their events usually in the fall. So it's going to be up to the committee whether or not they actually even want to do it in 2023. It might be a 2024 item, simply because of the timing.
I would agree with Carol. 2023, trying to get a breakfast organized with a golf tournament in between is going to be really, really tough this year. It's and we don't want to run into the other ones for sure, because that's not going to help us in any form or way. So 2024 is probably maybe a better idea. It gives us a bit of time to plan. Plus, maybe even getting somebody to organize the food and whatnot. If we try to do it in the fall, it might be a bit of a tough thing to do as well. But again, that's something we can discuss when we have more members. Even the golf tournament, we're already in April, and that only gives us one more month to really work hard on getting that golf tournament going. Is Rotary already working on it, Carol?
Yeah, so the golf tournament's actually already organized and completed. So Rotary and I have been working on that since December of 2022. So your participation now in the golf tournament would be because we haven't sold out all the tickets. There are a few tickets left, so that would be where I would ask for participation. But also, we're still looking for key sponsors.
Okay.
Samir?
Thank you, Carol, for the great introduction and things that we do behind the scene and things like that. That really appreciate. My question was going towards the June 8 date that you stated earlier about the golf tournament. I know it's we're partnering with the Rotary Club in organizing this event and making it more successful. So what are we looking, how are we going to support, or what support do you need from the committee in order to make it more successful, or just needed a little bit more clarification on what do you want committee members to work on it that would make this event successful?
So definitely the volunteer piece is important because that is usually where we have issues, and unfortunately it's always a week before or 2 weeks before that we're finding out that the volunteers that we hope to secure are not available. So it would be nice to have, steadfast volunteers that we know will be there for the event. And it's really important also to have forward-facing economic development committee members specifically at the registration table and throughout the golf course. So that is a long day, and I understand that that's not something that everyone will be able to do. It starts literally at 11 o'clock, and probably end somewhere around 7 p.m. But certainly, even if the committee members can contribute a few hours of their time that day, that would be well appreciated. So the other area that we need support in is the selling of the tickets. We typically in the past, Economic Development Committee was very involved in selling the tickets. Now, my understanding is there's not very many foursomes left. I think there's only about 4 foursomes left, but I will touch base with Bobby today and I'll get an update on that. But there are some sponsorship opportunities that are still available. We are working on updating the sponsorship package. We removed one of the items that was developed for one of our key sponsors a few years ago. But Bobby would like to replace it with the beverage cart, a beverage card sponsorship, for instance, and I believe that it's a sponsorship level of around $1,500, but we're still looking for whole sponsors, which are smaller, and a few other, a dinner sponsor. I believe we're still looking for one other dinner sponsor. So I will send you the full list. I'm waiting, I believe she's waiting to hear back from the golf course, and that's why I don't have a formal update. But as soon as I have that information, I will share it with the committee members. But for sure, being at the course the day of, and also if you have the opportunity or are able to help with the sponsorship package in terms of sharing it with maybe a corporation or individual that you know that might be interested, that'd be also appreciated.
Thank you, Carol, for that great explanation. Just wanting to counter question on volunteer piece. You said we need volunteers. Do we have set numbers in past? If you can give me an approximate number of volunteers that we are looking into, so we can reach out and make an arrangement for, or look for volunteers to support this event.
Sure.
Going into the second question, sorry, the second question I have it's regarding the attendees for the golf tournament. You said the forward front facing economic development committee members to be there at the registration booth, and what I was gonna actually touch on the same idea that if the event is 11 to 7, maybe we can, within our committee, we can decide who wanted to be at what time, and that way throughout the day we have our members present, represent the committee at the golf tournament.
Yeah.
Then the rest of the stuff, selling tickets and so on, as you said, I'll wait for that email to come back and review it. If I have a further question, definitely I'll go ahead and ask those. But for now, I have the question regarding volunteer, and then we'll I think once the committee is formed properly, I guess we can tackle that area around attending the meetings or attending golf tournament registration desk, basically.
Yeah. So the number of volunteers, we have 2 holes that need to be manned. And in the past, we've relied on we relied on 5 volunteers, but what I would say is that we should probably be looking at closer to 10 to 15 volunteers, simply because it's a long day for someone to stand at the hole. I know that the last 3 golf tournaments, I've stood at the hole on average for 4 hours. So that's too long. So what I would like to see happen is that it rotates. So it would be a 2-hour shift. So if we had 10 to 15 volunteers, that would probably cover it. And that would be the ideal scenario.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Just a counter question to it. So when we reach out to the volunteer, they would want to know what sort of things they would be handling when they're doing the volunteer work there. So is there any specific thing that they would be? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm.
Yeah, I actually have and I can share that with you. I have because I've posted on some of the volunteer sites, I actually have a job description. So essentially the volunteers were required to be over the age of 18 years of age and older, ideally. They also will required to be able to stand for periods of time. And they have to be comfortable talking with people as well.
And
there are perks as well. So each of the volunteers will be fed. They're not going to be there for the whole day, so they get fed. They also will be get their volunteer hours, and they also will be getting a swag bag. So we put aside volunteer bags. So each of our sponsors put something in the bag. So the swag bag, like last year, they got umbrellas and mugs and all kinds of really neat stuff.
Great.
And Samir, just to let you know, usually the mayor and I get put into some foursome somewhere to golf. It's happened every year. We usually get tackled onto some developer or somebody else that's in the community. But we can put maybe some try to put some volunteer hours at the table.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing I did. Typically what happens is that does happen with, and so a lot of sponsors will buy, like for instance, our key sponsor, they'll get so many free dinner tickets, golf tickets. So if they can't fill them, then what I'll do is I'll send an email out to the Economic Development Committee. And if members want to tag on to a team, they can. So you can play golf as well. It's not all about sitting at the registration table for 2 hours, and you can actually have some fun.
I love it, love it.
So Samir, what I can do, and what I'll do with everyone, is I will share the job description, and I will also share all the details of the golf tournament and the current sponsor package that I have. So the sponsor package is something that Bobby and I work on early on in the year, and it's changes simply because we get sponsors that say they would like to sponsor a program, but maybe the amount of money that they want to sponsor, the limit is for instance, it's already been taken, but they have $500 that they would like to give towards it. So we create something for them. So that's where we're at right now. And I'm hoping to hear from her hopefully sometime this week. So once I have updated information and I can update the package, I will share it with everyone.
Thank you, Carol. Just a thought of it as well. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, date is June 8. Am I correct?
Yeah, it is June 8th.
Okay, right. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so did you want to talk about a meeting schedule? So I know, Alice, did you want to tackle this? Or do you want me to?
Well, let's just make them aware of the restructuring, what's going on with that first before we go to the meeting schedule.
Okay.
Did you want me to touch on that first, or do you?
Yeah.
Okay. So the town advertised for members, for applicants for committees, twice for the Economic Development Committee, and unfortunately, we're not able to get enough members to fulfill the committee. So at this time, staff is actually going to be taking a report back to council to recommend a change to the terms and conditions, the mandate for the Economic Development Committee, that we can have members that are not residents of Shelburne, but that have businesses connections with Shelburne. And so if council approves that, the goal is to add 4 more members to the committee. So that's why we didn't want to do a committee chair and vice chair when at this point we have 3 public members, 2 members of council, and we're still looking at adding 4 more members. So once council makes the decision about whether that's their choice to go forward with that, then Carol will be reaching out to different organizations to hopefully increase the membership within the committee. So again, we didn't want to set a full schedule for the committee when we don't have complete members of a committee yet. So we do want to set a timeline of when the committee would like to meet again, but not set specific dates and times at this time.
So if I can also make a comment, have we reached out to some of our businesses in town? Like, for example, KTH, for membership from them, Blue Mountain, Springs, and Home Hardware, some of the other ones, to see if any of them would send representation to the EDC.
That's part of what we're doing with taking the report back to council, is so that we can reach out as opposed to waiting for people to apply. And it's not just limited to residents, because some of the business individuals might not necessarily be residents.
Yeah, I know I've discussed it with the mayor, and that is exactly our thoughts on it, so.
The other thing to keep in mind is not just residents, right? It is business owners don't necessarily have to live in Shelburne to sit on the committee. They just need to own a business within the district. So all those call outs that we've done for committees would have gone to the KTHs and the Home Hardwares and the Blue Mountains of the world. So if they haven't, if they haven't actively decided to join the committee, I'm going to say it's because they're either don't have the time or there's no interest there. I mean, those call outs have been going, that they were at least a month, right? Or 6 weeks. So there's certainly plenty of time to have representation from especially the key industries within town.
Yeah, I know I've spoken to the manager, or whatever you want to call him, the deputy mayor, in regards to KTH, and my understanding is we will get something from KTH, for example, is what he's indicated to me. But anyway, we do need to reach out to and increase the membership for sure.
Samir?
So my question was just around that area, but I wanted to know what's the time frame. So say you want to take it back to council for amend this policy or so to speak, the bylaw for the Economic Development Committee. What's the turnaround time coming back from council that this has been approved? Let's reach out to the businesses or individual who is owning a business not residing within the town. So what's the turnaround time we're expecting? Because I'm looking at June 8th. That's kind of really it's approaching very soon if I'm thinking hard at it. So just want to make sure that we are all prepared and do our due diligence.
So it's going to go to council on Monday, April 24th. And the way it's being proposed is that Carol will be able to bring information back to council in May. Carol's already done some legwork in reaching out to organizations and businesses to seek interest. And so it should be a very quick turnaround to council. But that being said, in regards to the golf tournament, there is absolutely no reason why current members of the committee couldn't continue to communicate with Carol via email. It doesn't require a meeting of the committee to continue to coordinate items for the golf tournament. Carol will reach out to you via email, and you can reach out. You don't have to have a meeting related to the golf tournament to continue to move that forward.
Thank you, Alice.
Okay, so is there any other questions about the restructuring? Okay, so then for the meeting schedule, we're proposing at this time that we meet every 3 months for the committee. So it's not going to be a monthly meeting like many of our other committees. It's April right now. Summer is a challenging time for many individuals with vacations and stuff. So it's, the decision is, if we're going to go every 3 months, do you want to do one in July, or would you like to wait until September when schedules are a little bit more quote unquote back to normal?
May I suggest, sorry, Alice, but may I suggest July, because it makes sense. We've just had the golf tournament.
Yep.
And it would be great to hear back what's happened in the golf tournament before we jump in and wait longer into July.
Okay, that sounds good. So maybe even the end of June might work for people as well. Would that be an option?
That might even be
Okay. That might be better. Okay. So we'll do end of June, early July.
So I'm not available first week of July, but I'm available any other week.
Okay. And then,
Sorry,
Go
I was
ahead,
just
Samir.
gonna. I have a Disney plan trip plan end of June.
okay.
So,
Okay, so how about if you could just email me your availability for the last 2 weeks of June and the first 2 weeks of July? I know that's a big chunk, but hopefully in there we can get some availability for everybody. And then the next one after that, Carol, would you want it in like September or October? What would you prefer the next one to be, Carol?
3 months after. So if we're going to do this quarterly, let's just do every 3 months. And
Okay.
then I will just provide updates. I do have a quick question. I don't know if I have everyone's email on our constant contact list, which I send out a monthly newsletter. So I would like to have if you're okay with it, like, can I add your email addresses to that newsletter? It kind of keeps you in the loop in terms of the projects that I'm working on as well. Okay, perfect. So I'm assuming those nodded heads means that yes, I can do that. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so then is there any new business that anyone wanted to bring up at this time?
I don't think so.
Okay, so, all right, well, I thank you very
Sorry,
much.
sorry. Can I just
Go
say
ahead,
one
Carol.
thing? The other thing that the Economic Development Committee will be working on, and that will probably be a 24 project, is we have to look at our strategic plan. So the old strategic plan expired in 2022. So we're probably just this year just going to be reviewing the strategic plan to see what items are left over. And then in 2024, we will start planning a new strategic plan. It's just a bit of a heads up. So again, at some point once we have a full committee, I will share our old strategic plan with the committee members for you to review.
We all need consultants, as we've done in the past with the strategic plan.
Yeah, we will be using consultants, but like everything, we have to apply for funding and hope we get it.
I was going to say our budget.
Yeah, because they're quite expensive to do, so.
Yeah.
sorry, on Carol, on the last. Sorry for interjecting. Carol, on the last note. We spoke about at the beginning of meeting, mainly 2 events that we hold. The Economic Development Committee holds: breakfast, golf tournament, and speaker series. Now, for the speaker series, like, does that happen? Correct me if I'm wrong. Does that happen at the golf, or is it a separate event?
It's
And how often does that? Like, how often do we hear speakers coming into the community, or is there any possibility of basically, say, a business owner coming out and speaking their experience, basically sharing their thoughts, and maybe helping each other basically grow? That's my thought.
Yeah, it's entirely up to the committee. In the past, the speaker series is something that I started doing because of COVID, and we couldn't hold the EDC breakfast. But it's meant to be, the ones that I've done were meant to be educational, but that doesn't mean that the Economic Development Committee can't do a speaker series with local businesses talking about their experience. I think that's a fantastic idea. I also think it's a great way to build community. So yeah, absolutely. If that's something the Economic Development Committee wants to do, it's constantly changing. The speaker series was developed as a COVID response, but that doesn't mean it needs to continue in the same format moving forward.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay, so if there is no other new business or items to discuss, then I would just need a member to move and second that we now adjourn. So moved by Walter, seconded by Samir. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone have a
Thank
good
you.
day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.